Kukenda. I'm opening up the staff hearing officer meeting of March 22nd, 2023. Let's first start with preliminary matters while we get our PowerPoint operating. One moment. Any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of X agenda items? I have none. Any announcements and appeals? No appeals. I do have one announcement to make that I just want the community to be aware of, that currently we are holding a special recruitment for the Single Family Design Board. There are 2 vacancies and the positions are quite flexible. You can have professional qualifications, you can be an architect, which neither one of those have residency requirements, or you can be a member of the public, and that does have a residency requirement for City of Santa Barbara. But we need to get applications in for Single Family Design Board for this recruitment by April 3rd, and then April 11th, City Council will be holding their interviews and making the appointments the same day. So thank you. And now I'm going to open it up to public comment for items not on today's agenda. Ms. Gu, do we have anybody attending via Zoom? I don't think I received any public comment, but if you could confirm.
Okay. No, we do not have any attendees on the a Zoom meeting at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment then, and like to invite Ms. Kennedy here to kick us off with item A. 311 West Montecito Street. This is a new item. The project consists of a new 2-story, 3-room hotel on a 5,671 square foot lot. Each hotel guest room includes 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchenette, living room, and a private patio. A housekeeping storage room and a trash recycling area would be provided on site. The hotel would be an annex to the approved 32-room primary hotel location to be constructed across the street at 302 and 308 West Montecito Street. Hotel amenities, including drop-off, check-in, concierge, laundry, etc., would be provided at the primary hotel location. Parking would also be provided at the primary hotel location via an off-site parking agreement. The Japanese maple tree located in the front yard would be removed, and the existing Jacaranda Street tree would remain. This project includes demolition of all existing on-site improvements, for example, the 1-story building, shed, and fence. And the discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a coastal development permit to allow the proposed development in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, a development plan to allow the construction of a 2,464 square feet of net new non-residential floor area, and then lastly, to determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. So, Ms. Kennedy, you're here to present the project whenever you are ready, please. And if I could ask Ms. Gu to switch over.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kukenda. Good morning. I'm Kathy Kennedy, case planner for this project. I'm showing you here first an aerial view. The project we're talking about today is 311 West Montecito. In the description, it mentioned that this is an annex to an approved hotel. So the one that we'll be talking about as part of this project is the approved 32-unit or 32-room hotel located at 302 and 308 West Montecito Street. It's located here at the corner of Bath and West Montecito. So this new project today is an annex to that. And so I wanted to give you an orientation of where that is located. You'll see also 328. This is another project. We won't be talking about that today, but that is also another annex to the hotel that will be up for approval in the near future. So, okay, like Ms. Kukenda mentioned, that this is a new hotel annex, so it is a 3-room or 3-suite proposal. Here on the left is the existing building that will be demolished. Everything on site will be removed, and then the construction will be a 2-story three-suite hotel. This just shows the 2 units on the first floor. We'll get to the second floor in a moment. Each hotel room will have an outdoor area, a patio area, and the project meets all zoning requirements for setbacks, height. The setback in the back is 1/2 the height of the building because it's next to residential. It meets the setback in the front, which is 10 feet. There's a Montecito street widening setback of 10 feet, so the project meets that. Meets all other zoning requirements. Because there's an existing 889 square foot non-residential building, it's been converted to a short-term rental, so it's non-residential square footage. That square footage can be used for the new development, so there's a net difference of 2,464 square feet of net new floor area, and that is part of the development plan application request for that 2,464 net new square footage. Like I said, it does conform to the zoning ordinance requirements. The project's required to be consistent with the Coastal Act and the land use, coastal land use plan because it's in the coastal zone. And I've provided a number of policies that the project is consistent with. In the staff report, the project also has been before design review. Switch over to the elevation. I'm not getting into the design very much. The applicant will be talking about the architecture and the site planning a little bit more than I will. I'm giving more of an overview. But the project did go to the ABR on 2 occasions, and it received positive comments. They were able to generally make the compatibility findings and said that they could make them in the future. They'll have to go back to ABR for project design approval and final approval. So here are the elevations. So I'll just point out the elevation from West Montecito Street is here on this upper left. In regard to environmental review, we've determined that it is categorically exempt from further review based on section 15303, construction of new structures. Because this project is, it allows this exemption for developments up to 10,000 square feet in an area not involved in significant amounts of hazardous substances. All public services are available and is not an environmentally sensitive area. The only kind of interesting or different conditions of approval for this project, other than just the standard ones, are shown on page 10 of 11 conditions of approval. Just wanted to point out, because this project is essentially part of the other larger hotel, we're requiring a certificate of occupancy for this hotel to be issued either prior to or concurrently with the hotel. Those parking spaces for this project are going to be located on the other main hotel location. So we need to make sure those are usable before this has occupancy. And then, because again, those parking spaces are off-site, there's an off-site parking agreement that is required to be recorded prior to occupancy. And staff's recommendation is to I would recommend that the staff hearing officer approve the project, making the findings. So that would be the environmental findings, coastal development permit, and development plan findings in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A of the staff report. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. I'd like to invite the applicant up. If you could please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Ms. Kokinda, my name is Noah Greer. I'm the architect here to represent the project for OnDesign. And I'll start off very quickly looking at the plans. We're seeing here on the right the first floor plan. We have 2 units, as Ms. Kennedy mentioned, each has a private patio. So starting with the front unit, West Montecito here is at plan, the top of the plan. We have a private patio here, a 2-bedroom suite of approximately 1,000 square feet. And then at the rear of the site, we have another 2-bedroom suite, approximately 1,000 square feet, with a private patio that we'll see later in the landscape plan behind the unit. And then as we walk up the stairs to the second unit, we have a covered patio here and an entrance to the largest of the suites, another 2-bedroom suite. This one, I believe, approximately 1,300 square feet. Okay, in terms of the architecture itself, we have a fair amount of whimsy. We'll start here at the top left with the West Montecito Street elevation. There's a lot of movement to the building. There's a lot of voids in the massing. And from the street, I would say the architecture has a bit of whimsy to it. We have that private patio here in the middle with a low, maybe 24 or 30-inch garden wall in front of it. And then the primary entrance to the courtyard from which you enter each of the units is here on the left, and we have this sort of thickened gateway experience. Now, looking at the west elevation, which faces the two-story apartment complex we'll see later, you see here at the front, West Montecito's on the left. The 2-story bulk of the building is broken up with this second floor patio that serves that upper unit. And moving down to the rear elevation here, you can see again, while we have a primary mass on the left, we've broken it up with a single-story element on the right. And then lastly here, this is the east elevation that faces the market and restaurant. And here in the center of this elevation, we have the main courtyard space that includes the stairs here on the left, and then that second floor entrance patio that I mentioned before. And what we're seeing here on the right is that sort of thickened entry threshold condition that we have into the site. The site certainly benefits from not providing on-site parking, from utilizing the off-site parking agreement. And what that enables is, quite frankly, a lot of landscaping. And we also have the central courtyard with a nice fountain in the middle of it. And we have the ability then to provide a large planter at the rear with a proper shade tree in addition to the patios, et cetera. Okay, then I'll just fly through some of these renders that I think help explain the relationship of the project to the site. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit more for you. There we are. Okay, that entry gate that I'm seeing here. And then on the left, this is the store and restaurant as well as part of this sort of L-shaped complex. It has a 2-story element in the back. It's a single story at West Montecito, however. And then on the right, we have 2 stories right at the street of an existing apartment complex. Now here, looking from just a slightly different angle, you can see the stepped massing of the building that we're proposing. Same thing here, especially in relation to the 2-story apartment that we have adjacent. A few massing renders. These, I think, are helpful to show how the building sits in with into the existing neighborhood. You're seeing here on the right the 2-story apartment complex. On the left, the store, restaurant, perhaps apartments on the second floor. I'm not quite sure. Now, we also have in the neighborhood a structure of merit, if not a historic structure, mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing here. I believe it's 215 Bath. That's this structure. And it is additionally a sort of Spanish-styled red-tiled roof apartment structure. I'll just flip through the remaining massing models. And leave it at that. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. All right, and now I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anybody wishes to speak on this item, you can submit a speaker slip. Ms. Gu, do we have anyone joining us via Zoom?
Actually, I do not see any attendees at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I'm going to bring it back up. If you'd like to rejoin us, Mr. Greer. So I have, in my other role as design review supervisor, I'm very familiar with not only this particular project, but the primary hotel location at 302 or 308 West Montecito, and then the other, the one on the corner of Castillo and West Montecito as well. So I've seen all the ABR meetings, and I did go out for a site visit to understand. And I'm just kind of curious, just with the familiarity and kind of how the design has evolved, which again, even though aesthetics is not in my world, I have to kind of make sure that this complies with all the guidelines, that I can make those findings. But again, ABR's role is to do that. Actually, can you go back to that landscape? I was curious how you envision that bottom left space being used and kind of how that's accessed. And I mean, I understand you can kind of go down the length of the where the existing driveway is today, but just curious what you imagine that area being.
Yeah. Ms. Kokinda, thank you for asking. Primarily, this space really is there just to provide a landscape buffer between our site, the hotel suite that we have there, and then the parking lot that we have adjacent. So the intention was really that just gives us an opportunity for nice lush landscaping, and then the patio is really where any sort of outdoor activities for that suite are taking place.
And you're not necessarily inviting access to that area from that patio?
We are not.
Okay. So that was an intentional decision?
Yes.
Okay. Also wondering, I'm just curious, given the existing residential structures, again, I know a lot of the design and what ABR was looking at was to understand kind of the relationships between this structure and the neighboring residences, the multi-unit. Curious about your lighting and how you're trying to mitigate some of the potential nuisance issues and kind of your thinking behind that on site.
I'd say the general concept was the concept for the structure even began with the reality that West Montecito is busy, loud, and some would say occasionally unsavory in terms of the sort of traffic that we see through the area. And so we were trying to balance this architecture that addressed the street in a friendly way while still providing for privacy and security for the hotel patrons. And that extends from the overall site design, where we have the gate and the sort of private patio, and we have limited windows, although we added windows over time to the street elevation at the street. And the fact that we have the primary courtyard is interior to the site and separate from the street. That also extends through the lighting as well. While all the lighting, of course, would be down lighting, non-glaring, dark sky compliant lighting. The intention is that from the entryway all throughout the courtyard, you have a nicely illuminated space with these primarily building mounted sconces. And then we do have a second floor patio, and that would be the same. So yes, there's a potential that from the apartment buildings, you would see that second floor patio. But again, it would be shielded lighting and nothing obnoxious to the neighbors.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I mean, just wanted to get a couple of those questions out. It's a unique project in some ways. It's creative to be able to use these sites. I guess a question for Ms. Kennedy. There's currently an existing single-family residence on site. Can you just confirm that this, because there's demolition of a unit, this project it was required for the tenant displacement? Is that?
Actually, no. So this was converted to a short-term rental back in
you said that.
2017.
That's right.
So
Okay.
that was dealt with at that point.
Okay, thank
so
you
now
for-
it's non-residential.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, great. So I don't have any other questions, and I can go ahead and make the findings. Again, overall, so much of this is as Ms. Kennedy walked us through, and as it's stated in the staff report, this meets all of the, I can make the findings for the coastal development permit, as well as the development plan, based on all of our local coastal plan and being able to meet all of the policies. It's creative. I know that ABR will be kind of going back and kind of, you'll be finalizing design elements, and I think a lot of that, you've been very sensitive to that over time, and again, that's kind of in their wheelhouse to manage that, but I'm particularly cautious when it comes to having residential next door, and I think that this is a sensitive design overall. So yes, I can go ahead and make the environmental review findings, that it qualifies as an exemption under section 15303. This project is consistent with the policies of the California Coastal Act, as described in Ms. Kennedy's staff report, and all the applicable policies, the local coastal plan, the guidelines, and our municipal code. And regarding the development plan, this is proposed development does comply with all the applicable zoning standards, and when it comes to setback, building height, parking, non-residential floor area, and in large part it's able to do that because of the creative parking setup that's being proposed, and that will be part of the condition of this project. And that this project is consistent with the principles of sound community planning in the hotel use. This is a very, I think it's very much appreciated to invest in this area and this street. And, I think that we all can go out there and it could use a little TLC at times. So again, much appreciation for the investment and trying to be able to impact this area in a way that is responsive to interests in the community and tourism. And this project will not have a significant adverse impact on the community aesthetic or character based on its bulk, size, and scale. Again, it's very sensitive to the structure of merit in the rear, southeast. It's sensitive to the multi-unit structures on either side, and just its location to the different commercial areas. It's modest. It's an appropriate scale overall. And yes, this is also consistent with all the policies of the traffic management strategy, as Ms. Kennedy outlined in the staff report. So that is my approval. This is, again, comes with all the conditions of approval. Did you have any questions about those at this time, Mr. Greer?
I do not. Thank you for asking.
Okay. And all right, I can go ahead and say that my decision can be pulled up at any time in the next 10 calendar days by a planning commissioner, or it could be appealed at that time. So that's all I want to say right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move right along. I'm sorry we got a late start today. And we now have 328 West Figueroa Street, a new item. This is a 6,698 square foot site. It's currently developed with a 615 square foot single unit residence, Unit A, with a 460 square foot attached garage and a 32 square foot attached shed, and a 1,705 square foot duplex building comprised of units B and C. Ms. Gu, do you mind putting this up on the screen? The project involves conversion of the existing garage to an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU, and a 122 square foot addition to that structure. The project also includes removal of pavement between the residence and duplex that was added without a permit. No changes to the existing duplex or single unit residence are proposed. And let's see. This discretionary application under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project is an interior setback modification to allow the ADU to have a reduced setback of 2 feet, 6 inches, rather than the required 4-foot setback along the interior, which is the rear lot line adjoining the alley. The environmental analyst has determined that this project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. Today, I have Ms. Plummer here to present the project. And Ms. Gu, if you could switch back to the plans, and whenever you're ready, Ms. Plummer.
Thank you, Ms. Kokinda. Again, I'm Pilar Plummer, Associate Planner with the City of Santa Barbara Planning and Zoning Division. And the project that is before you today is 328 West Figueroa Street, which is located between Castillo Street and Curley Avenue. As you'll see on the site plan, the rear of the property joins an alley, which is not considered a front lot line and is considered an interior setback relative to this property. The overall project involves conversion of an existing 460 square foot two-car garage, which you'll see on the screen here where my mouse is, which adjoins an existing 615 square foot primary residence. And the conversion is from a two-car garage to an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU. The project also includes a small infill addition of 122 square feet to the structure to allow for a larger size for the accessory dwelling unit. During staff's review of the project, it was determined also that this location here, the property is developed with the house, the garage, and a duplex building, as well as uncovered parking. This portion here was paved for vehicular purposes without a permit, and that is part of their required open yard for the property. The applicant is proposing to return this area to open yard space as part of this application. There are no other changes to the existing residence or duplex as part of this project. The existing, and I'm actually going to go to the floor plans really quick. Okay. So to the left, you'll see the existing, again, single-family residence with the attached two-car garage, and to the right is the proposed. So the existing residence garage are both considered legal non-conforming with respect to interior setbacks. The existing building at the rear has a 2'6" setback. While no setback is required to convert existing legally permitted floor area, a setback modification was determined to be required in this case because of the infill addition at the rear. New additions, while ADUs are allowed a 4-foot setback, new additions are required to be conforming to the allowed 4-foot setback encroachment. The applicant did look at not doing this infill addition. However, ultimately that was not pursued, and they went with the infill primarily because of the existing rear elevation. It provided for a better design aesthetic to match the existing primary residence, and also allows for a larger one-bedroom configuration for the accessory dwelling unit. Staff is supportive of the modification request, given that this is a pretty minimal infill addition. It's a modest accessory dwelling unit, and because the rear of the lot faces an alley, there are generally no anticipated noise or privacy issues. And I'll just show the elevations of the rear really quick. So again, to the left is the existing garage, which is going to have removal of the garage door replaced with windows and siding to match the primary residence. So it looks like a residential unit. With exception of the requested setback encroachment, the project which a modification is being requested, the project is consistent with the zoning ordinance. It should be noted that no parking is required for the accessory dwelling unit, and the existing two-car garage which serves the residence is not required to be replaced, as the ordinance allows for the conversion of a garage to an ADU without providing additional parking. In terms of environmental review, the environmental analyst determined that the project qualifies for a categorical exemption for new construction, which allows for construction of an accessory dwelling unit. The project is located in several archaeological sensitivity areas. However, there was other documentation of reports within the vicinity, so staff is recommending a condition of a standard condition regarding unanticipated archaeological resources for this project. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be here, and I believe the applicant is here as well for attendance if you have questions for him.
I appreciate it. And if I invite the applicant to come up, and if you could please state your name for the record, and if there's anything you want to add about the project or walk me through about your request.
Yes, my name is Tarn Shea.
I'm part of my interruption. Do you mind turning your mic on? The one, it's just there's a little button and a green light will come on. Yeah, there you go. It's for city TV. It's not necessarily for us.
Yes, my name is Tarn Shea, agent for the applicant, Pat Radis. Ms. Plummer actually went over just about everything that we're asking for. The existing structure has the garage door setback, but most of the structure is already there, so this infill doesn't change the overall aerial footprint, and it actually would be aesthetically more pleasing than having the setback.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and open up public comment for this item. As of today, didn't get any comments on it, but if anybody's in the audience or wishes to share anything, I guess the Zoom audience, because I can see for myself, we don't have
At
anybody
this
here.
time, we do not have any attendees for this particular item. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment for this item and then go back to the applicant. This is a fairly straightforward project. I went out on site. I wholeheartedly agree with you that it really, that based on just the outline of the structure aerially, it's not going to, there's really no change by this really small infill. I think you actually achieve a better design, a better floor plan, a better housing unit overall. So very much appreciated to get to have a unit, a nicer unit in Santa Barbara. And honestly, the request for the interior setback, because it's facing the alley, it's a really interesting part of Santa Barbara, those little alleyways and that network. And it's I don't imagine this being any kind of a significant impact, given that alley is a buffer between properties, and it's pretty substantial amount of room to the next residence or to the next multi-unit housing across the way. And I do want to call out, when I did go out on site, I saw that there's a lot of parking that, most people are trying to fit, as many of the residents of this site are trying to fit in. And I know that you call out reverting back to the open yard. And so I do think that for the sake of sometimes we see a balance between parking and open yard, but I just want to make sure that the restoration of the open yard does occur. So I'm going to go ahead and make my findings that this project is exempt from further environmental review due to Ms. Plummer's review and being able to be exempt under Section 15303 of new construction or conversion of small structures. I can also approve the interior setback modification for all the reasons listed in the staff report and what I just said again about that it really doesn't change the overall footprint, that it's a minimal infill project, and it's aesthetically more pleasing and results in a much better floor plan if you had to subtract that space. So we'll be approving this with two conditions. One is the condition that Ms. Plummer wrote in the staff report, and the other is just before building permit issuance to just specify the landscape material for the designated open yard location, and that it needs to satisfy the ABR's landscape design guidelines. So it's stated that you're going to restore it, but it doesn't tell me how. So that's the only thing. So that's the condition, and we have all the guidelines for you, and I don't think that should be too terribly hard to make that happen. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
I do not know.
Okay. Well, with that, with this decision, I am going to announce an appeal within 10 calendar, Ms. Gu, do you mind switching over? Within 10 calendar days, this, any member of the Planning Commission could pull my decision if they feel so, or anyone can appeal my decision as well if they submit. So thank you so much. And again, thank you for your project, and
Thank you for your time.
see you soon. And I'm going to go ahead and conclude the staff hearing officer meeting for today. We are adjourned.